You'll love this one. The woke left appears to be running out of fresh topics to be mad about, and the most recent one that they chose was the issue of colonialism. This one is so silly, right? They always have a blurred understanding of history because they view issues that took place a few decades ago as if they happened yesterday or they're currently ongoing. Rafe Heydel-Mankoo, who's a well-known historian, had to endure the uniform takes of Millionaire Mentor, who is a British television personality on this exact same topic. She wouldn't even let him complete his arguments, which resulted in a heated debate until the very last seconds. But before I delve deeper into it, check out the clip.
Good morning. Very nice to see you both. But Rafe, you are a child of empire, and my friend, I mean, you're from Kenyan Indian descent, and you think, and you're proud of that, and you think that was a good thing.
Absolutely. I mean, look, we have to speak facts here. Colonialism and capitalism together lifted more people out of poverty in the world than any other two forms that we have here. Wherever you go in the world, particularly British colonialism, every region of the world, the most successful, the most democratic, and usually the richest countries are those that have a former colonial British inheritance. That applies to the Americas, South America, Africa, Asia, and elsewhere. And there's a reason that Canada, Australia, and New Zealand always rank amongst the 10 best countries in which to live, and that's because of their colonial inheritance. You know, the army, the military, schools, universities, hospitals, the infrastructure of government, the civil service, all of that is due to the British inheritance. And you know, if you look around the world, it's impossible to say that the countries of Africa and Asia and elsewhere would have had the evolution towards democratic legislatures and stable countries were it not for colonialization.
Well, it's an interesting statement. It's a brave statement. Narendra is, there's steam coming out of her ears.
There really is. I mean, Rafe, you sound quite mad. I mean, I don't know where you get your facts from.
Well, for history books, you should try to read one once in a while.
I don't know which history books you're reading, but they're not correct. Because you're talking about benefits to who? Self-indigenous people and people who were colonised. Actually, I call colonisation genocide. Let's speak facts. Your facts are actually British colonisation, genocide, killed...
Genocide is a very difficult word to say.
I'll let you speak. Killed hundreds of millions of people. It's murder. There's a legal liability here. They killed hundreds of millions of people colonising the world. And actually, I don't like this argument, Eamon, that actually it was in the past. Because you said that in the break, that actually it's in the past. Let it go. The ramifications of colonisation are still felt today. Aboriginal people are still the poorest in health, education. An Aboriginal teenager is more likely to go to prison than university.
I'll tell you what I think. I mean, it's very controversial. I mean, I'm from Ireland, and, you know, colonisation there, we still live with today. It's not, I totally understand her into your argument there, but part of me says, look ahead, stop looking back. We can't change the past.
How can you look ahead when you're still suffering? People who were former slaves, their families are still suffering.
No one is suffering from colonialism.
Poor.
Come on, Narendra. You're spouting nonsense. Firstly, hundreds of millions of people...
Hundreds of millions of people were murdered. Rafe, you don't know your facts, and I feel sorry for you.
Narendra is basing her claims of hundreds of millions of people being killed on Al Jazeera opinion piece, which is just that, an opinion. And it doesn't correspond to reality at all. The article alleges that between 1880 and 1920, British colonial policies in India claimed that all famines in the Soviet Union, Maoist China, and North Korea combined. The authors constantly mention terms like experts agree without providing references from said experts, and all they do is build arguments on their assumptions, so this number isn't to be taken seriously in the slightest. By the way, do subscribe for more discussions like this. Just looking at the number of available statistics on population growth in the area that constitutes modern-day India, one could see the absurdity of these claims. On 1800, the number stood at 169 million, with it reaching 353 million in 1947, the year which India gained its independence. This increase is mainly due to improvement in health, sanitation, and infrastructure under British rule. British colonization also played a significant role in improving living standards in many colonized countries. One of the enduring legacies of British colonization is the introduction of legal and administrative systems based on common law. These systems have been foundational in the former colonies' post-independence development, as they provided a framework for justice, governance, and public administration that many of them continue to use to this very day. For instance, countries like India, Malaysia, and Nigeria are still maintaining parliamentary structures and democratic practices that were initially modeled on the British system and put in place by them. The British have also established numerous educational institutions in their colonies, which have been instrumental in promoting literacy education and the development of a skilled workforce. These institutions laid the groundwork for higher education and professional training, contributing to the intellectual and social development of these nations. Colonial rule also saw the development of critical infrastructure, including railways, roads, ports, and communication networks. For instance, the British established Singapore as a major trading port due to a strategic location, building extensive port facilities and infrastructure. This has continued to benefit Singapore post-independence, allowing it to become one of the busiest and most efficient ports in the world. The port's capacity for handling large volumes of cargo has facilitated Singapore's growth into a global trade hub.
Everything you said may well be true, but Narendra basically saying it wasn't worth the price that was paid.
Well, it's absolute nonsense. Firstly, there's no... Excuse me, it's now my turn to speak. Thanks so much. Hundreds of millions of people did not die underneath the British Empire.
Yes,
That's complete nonsense. Also, life expectancy for Aborigines for thousands of years had been 40 years of age. You know, they were a Stone Age Paleolithic culture when the British arrived there.
So
they now have life expectancies of 70 years, 30 years
No, that's not
longer.
correct either.
I'm sorry, I'm giving you the absolute facts here.
Their life expectancy is decades less than white Australians.
And there are many reasons for that, but it's not due to colonialism. Their life expectancy increased by 30 years in 200 years. After tens of thousands of years, it was 40 years. I'm terribly sorry, but you need to go back and do some research.
No, Rafe, you don't know your facts, because actually colonisation or genocide has put Australians, South Indigenous people, behind hundreds of years.
Everywhere you go.
Colonisation put Indians back hundreds of years. You're not right in anything.
Excuse me,
and actually,
under the Raj, the British population...
You can't actually say that because Britain made some trains and we did this and we did that. We did great. You did it for your own benefit.
The Indian population...
The only thing that benefited colonisation was the British, their pockets. You lined your pockets on the backs of Indigenous people.
I will guess that the general audience that's listening and watching us today will respect what both of you are saying, but they'll say you're losing the argument because he seems very calm about this, and you rightly probably, so you're inflamed about this, aren't you?
Because people died at the hands of British government and the British monarchy.
All right, I'm sorry, can I just interject here?
Let me finish now.
Well, you've spoken for quite a while.
People died, Eamon.
Right.
Hundreds of millions of people died.
Okay, how do you respond to that?
Under the Indian Raj, the population of India increased from 170 million to 450
20 million died in the Bengal famine.
The whole cyclical famines of India ended because of British storage techniques and malnutrition projects.
You're actually lying about your facts.
Well, I'd love to have a longer discussion where I can expose the nonsense that you're spouting here. Also, the British advanced women's rights in India. The history of women in India is one of oppression. The British banned sutti, the burning of widows on the funeral pyres. The British stopped the infanticide of girls, and the British allowed Hindu women to remarry.
You killed in 1919. You shot dead.
You wouldn't be here enjoying the lifestyle you are were it not for the Britain's great advances for women. I'm terribly sorry.
Rafe, what you're saying is because Britain, the great British Empire, we went there and we advanced social justices and all that. Therefore, I'm lucky. I'm not lucky if my ancestors were murdered at the hands of
Your ancestors are also my ancestors. We're both Sikhs, all right? So don't speak as if you have complete domain over this. All right?
I'm not lucky.
You are absolutely lucky.
Aboriginal people are not lucky because of British colonisation. British colonisation was genocide.
I'm saying as a woman, as an Indian woman, you are lucky because of colonisation, because your life would not be as...
I live in a country where I faced racism. I could have been back home, and actually India could have been richer. Thankfully, we are richer now. Thankfully,
India is one of the world's 5 most racist countries. I'm terribly sorry to break it to you.
Well, why doesn't she go back home now? She should put her money where her mouth is, but that's what the woke left excels in, virtue signaling and telling you how to feel or behave without taking actions or bearing consequences for their own statement. She also constantly talks over Rafi and doesn't let him complete his arguments, which only shows her incapacity to engage efficiently in debates. This behavior is not only disrespectful, but also counterproductive, as it limits meaningful dialogue and the exchange of ideas. Genuine debate requires listening and considering opposing viewpoints, not just asserting one's own perspective loudly and repeatedly. Interrupting and dominating conversations demonstrate an unwillingness to engage in the constructive dialogue necessary for understanding complex issues. That's clearly not a strong point of the left, since they always want to force their opinions on people without taking into account the alternative viewpoints. Colonialism led to the eradication of certain harmful customs in colonized countries. In Africa, British colonial authorities worked to end the widespread practice of human sacrifice in some regions. In Benin, for instance, the British abolished human sacrifices and the Dahomey Amazon's brutal practices, leading to a decrease in such violent traditions. While these changes were imposed and accompanied by significant cultural disruption, they did contribute to the cessation of certain violent and harmful customs in the colonized regions. Colonial rule also brought about changes that affected women's roles in society. Colonial legal reforms improved women's rights, where women began to participate more actively in the workforce and public life, contributing to economic and societal development. While acknowledging and learning from history is crucial, focusing solely on past injustices prevents societies from moving forward. I think it is more constructive to build on the positive legacies of the past while addressing enduring challenges, because dwelling excessively on historical grievances limits progress and we all get stuck in the past.